Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey. Joining me this week, once again, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is I've been continuing to play Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, but I haven't finished yet, so I don't want to do a full kind of here's week 3 of my thoughts on the game. You played Crisis Core Reunion over the
Yes.
last week, but rather than kind of dive into reviewing or talking about that old game, we thought let's look ahead to 2024 and kind of discuss. We usually do one of these episodes a year anyway. Let's look at our most anticipated games for 2024. Unless there is anything like last minute you want to throw onto the agenda in addition to that, but
No, we're good.
yeah. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be going through. I've got the Game Informer list pulled up. I think Cameron was looking at Game Explains, but it's basically going to be a list of month by month. Here are the games that we're looking forward to, and then we'll get into the big TBD, which typically goes alphabetical at the end. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So Cam, tell me, what is your first most anticipated game of the year?
So my first anticipated game of the year is actually going to be, I think it's also one of yours. Sorry, I just realized I had one that was above it, not bolded. My apologies. One that I have that I'm interested in, very interested in. We'll see how it goes because it looks very cool. And depending on how the concept of it ends up playing out, I'm very keen to really dig into it. And it's Nightingale. Nightingale is a open world survival game where you are going through kind of like the Fey realms after basically being cut off from Earth, or rather, people are chased from Earth and have ended up in these Fey realms. And it's basically about kind of like surviving and building a world and a life out there. I'm very curious to see kind of like what the compelling narrative is. I feel like that's the biggest key component missing out of a lot of these games. So far, it looks like the compelling narrative is that you're looking for and going through these realms to find Nightingale, which is apparently the last bastion of humanity in the Fey realms. And so you're just trying to hop between realms as you're trying to find it, basically. I'm curious to see how that all plays out, how the kind of realm hopping nature of this game goes. What does that mean for your bases and everything? So yeah, I'm super curious about it. There seems to be a lot of interesting things about it in regards to kind of building out your base. What does that mean? What does it look like? It looks like there's a lot of focus on the kind of Victorian aesthetic that plays into it, which is nice and fun because it plays into kind of the Victorian revival of old Shakespearean plays like Midsummer Night's Dream and whatnot that were quite popular during that era. And so seeing kind of those, a lot of that style kind of matching with this, the idea of fae and fairies and whatnot. I'm very curious about it. I'm very curious. So I'm very keen to get into that a bit more. We'll see what ends up happening with it. It does come out later this, I think in a couple of days.
Comes out, yeah. It looks like early access on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I probably won't hop into it right away, but because I'm just curious to see what really comes out of it. But I am anticipating it, so we'll see what happens.
Cool. First from me on the list that I'll throw out. Actually, so mine are a flurry of games that have already come out, but we didn't do this on the first of the year. So I'm gonna give a tip of the hat real quick to Prince of Persia: Lost Crown.
Yeah,
obviously
yes.
It's already out. I could have picked it up, but Ubisoft has trained me that it'll be on sale in a month or two. So why pay full price for it when it immediately comes out? I've got plenty of other things to play right now. But I did play the demo for it, and it seems like it's going to be a fun Metroidvania to hop into and spend some time with. So shout out to Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. I did pick up the upgrade of Last of Us 2 Remastered. Downloaded it. So all of my trophies popped, but I've not yet hopped into the new grounded mode, or the thing I'm really interested in is hopping in and checking out the lost levels or the developer commentary things. But again, other things have come up, so I've been playing those other things, but I'm excited to circle back around to it. And then the one that I was most anticipated for initially that has been taking up my time, obviously, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, after getting really into the first Like a Dragon game, which retroactively kind of got me into the Yakuza series and stuff like that. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, obviously delivering very strongly on the things that I was excited for about it. And then the last one that's already come out for me that I want to give a shout out to, Helldivers 2. I'm not hopping in right now while all of the server stuff is going on. I'm gonna let the game kind of settle a little bit.
Maybe wait for a sale.
I'm not enough of like the co-op guy to like want to jump in and deal with it now while everybody is playing it. But I'm super happy for them and all the success that the game is getting, surprising, even them and stuff. But yeah, as somebody who enjoyed the first game back on Vita all those years ago, it's cool to see them getting this like flurry of excitement around the game. So shout outs to that. So those are that's my other stuff out of the way. And then, yeah, I imagine the next big one here in February is probably the big one on both of our lists, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Obviously, we talked at length about the demo last week and how much we enjoyed that. The Junon expansion to the demo will be coming out this week ahead of us. Look forward to exploring that and seeing more of that. But like, I'm already so sold on the game.
We both have it pre-ordered. It's already done.
Yeah. One of the things I've loved seeing just in this last week is all of the clips making the rounds of people using Tifa's piano to play like other songs and stuff like that. Some of my favorites that I've seen were like to Xanarkand or Welcome to the Black Parade. X gonna give it to you.
That was the best. That was so good.
So yeah, shout out to just the creative people. I imagine there was probably a similar thing when like the Last of Us 2 guitar stuff came around. I remember like seeing a few of those kinds of things, but yeah, cool to see just that kind of like nerditry celebrated and people loving that kind of stuff here. Anything to add on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth front?
No, I mean, I'm very much the same way. Very excited to get to that Junon part of that, to get kind of into that open world and combo combat, like scenario stuff. Very excited about all of that. Super, super stoked, just to get more of that great, like new version of the combat system. Been playing through, like,
especially if you going from Reunion to that, it's going to be a fun like treat.
Yeah, I already kind of hopped back into Remake before I was like, I should play through Reunion, and so I'm like went to that, played Rebirth, and I was like, cool, and then went from Rebirth to Reunion, and the Rebirth demo to Reunion. And so I'm like, wow, okay, there's a lot going on here. That being said, I'm super stoked just to get to see more of just the party. I forgot how going from Remake to Rebirth to then going to Reunion, I didn't realize how much I missed the kind of passive narrative being told. Remake and Rebirth, both especially, have such a great job of using the environment to kind of impact what kind of party dialogue is talked about kind of in the passive moment to moment. And it's just really, really cool to see that done. And I really can't wait to get back to that. So I'm very anticipating that.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. I'm taking days of work off around it so I can just kind of like heads down and enjoy the hell out of that game. The remake was my game of the year in 2020, and it like is up there among my favorite games of all time. Just the like creative way that it is remaking the story of Final Fantasy VII, and that it wasn't just like oh let's do like a shot for shot redo of the game. It is let's like treat this as a pseudo alternate universe take, or even maybe a sequel universe take or something like that kind of like vision is such a cool fun, especially like hitting it at the time of multiverses being the big thing. I'm just looking forward to seeing how this plays out. I'm looking forward to seeing how like the Cloud versus Zack timelines, what's going on there, how much time we're going to spend in like playing with Zack or even as Zack. I assume a lot since he's like on the cover of the game. um, but yeah, I'm super excited for it. I'm curious to see like, even simple things like how's Yuffie going to get folded into the story?
I'm super curious
Obviously,
about that.
she's an optional character in the original Final Fantasy VII, but obviously, if you played the interlude stuff, she's clearly being set on a path with our kind of core cast. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing all those things, and then just having fun. I mean, the Gold Saucer is going to be a ton of fun.
Oh my gosh,
all the mini games and stuff.
I'm going to spend so much goddamn time at the Gold Saucer.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, almost here, like a week and a half away for us. So yay for that. What do you got? That's there at the end of February. I imagine you don't have anything else February.
Let me think and see what I got going on here. I apologize because I pulled mine into it without that. No, that's it for February for me.
Okay. Yeah, it was a February 29th, so I didn't imagine you were going to have any other games around that one.
I just had to look at what my next one is, and I'm like, nope, that's a March one. So
yep. So hit me with your next game then.
My next one is actually a game that was supposed to come out in February, but ended up pushing itself back to give itself more breathing room.
Okay.
And that's the Thaumaturge. The Thaumaturge is coming from a lead developer who worked at CD Projekt Red, worked on the Witcher stuff. It is a turn-based RPG set in early 1900s Poland. Warsaw.
This is one you played at PAX, right?
It is indeed. I was really blown away by a lot of it. A lot about that game really blew me away in a lot of different ways and a lot of different on a lot of different levels. The tie into the idea of spiritualism that was very prominent in the early 1900s. The fact that at the beginning of the game you literally are under the tutelage of like fucking Rasputin. Is really cool. There's a lot going on about that kind of Eastern European spiritualism and demonology. And it looks really, really good. And it's kind of about coming back home to a place where coming back home because your father's died and picking up what's going on in a very volatile place, which was Warsaw in the early 1900s. This is, of course, before the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and a lot of other things that happened. So the Bolsheviks are a faction of people. There's also the criminal underground that's going on there. There's a lot of really cool stuff, and surrounding all of it is you're a healer who goes around helping people possessed by demons, and you do that by capturing the demons that are possessing people. And so you kind of collect them in Persona or Pokemon or something like that. So it's very, very cool. The style is very it's interesting. It's Telltale meets it has a very almost I'm trying to think cell shaded quality to it, but it's not specifically cell shaded. It's on that bordering between that two, like the Wolf Among Us was. Wolf Among Us and a lot of other Telltale games were, but particularly Wolf Among Us.
Okay.
Very, very cool stuff. So looking forward to that.
Cool. One of my March releases that I'm excited for, Princess Peach Showtime.
Hey, there we go.
It's I think my only Nintendo game on the list. No, I got another one down there, down the ways. But it's one of two Nintendo games on the list. As Nintendo has kind of come out, or at least they haven't presented a very strong 2024 lineup, potentially swan song year as rumors of the Switch 2 or whatever Nintendo's doing next continue to swirl around. But this seems like it's going to have some fun Nintendo charm to it. And I'm curious to hop in and see what that one's going to be like. I think especially just it's coming out middle of March. I think it has the potential to just be a nice palate cleanser after what I imagine will be a pretty heavy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth run, and especially as I will most likely go back and play it on hard mode and do whatever I can to try and get the platinum for that one, like I did last time around, and obviously also given where Rebirth is going to end narratively in the broader Final Fantasy VII picture, I imagine I'll need some sort of like cheery pick me up kind of game following it. So, yeah, Princess Peach Showtime. Looking forward to jumping in and doing all sorts of costume changes as Princess Peach and see how each of the different versions of her play and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's my next one. I don't know if you have anything to add or if you want to just jump to your next game.
I'll just go to my next one. That wasn't on my list. It's fine. I'm looking forward to it. Just anything on the Switch is good. Next up for me is WWE 2K24.
Okay. Yeah.
I was really impressed with what 2K 2022 did. 2K23 did improvements, but like last year, it didn't even make my honorable mentions because it was such a like murderer's row of fantastic games last year. Like, nothing you can really do about that. It didn't do anything to like really blow me away. But I did sink quite a few hours into it. I feel like their improvement to the kind of like My Story, giving both a separate My Story for both male and female superstars, was a very cool way of doing it. One being like you're an indie wrestler on the up and coming, and then on the flip side for the female one, they gave that section a unique storyline of being like a legacy wrestler, and it's cool to see those different approaches taken to it and like having a unique storyline. Obviously, like some serious issues still occurring, like some recording sounded like somebody recorded it in their closet for voiceover stuff. Just not great overall stuff on that, but on all in all, it's doing what it needs to do, and I'm looking forward because 2K24 seems to be up there as far as quality goes. It looks like it's continuous improvement on their already existing stuff. So.
That obviously their big showcase is like the history, 40 years of WrestleMania kind of stuff.
Yep.
Be curious to see, especially with all the Vince McMahon and like Brock Lesnar stuff, how much they are excised from the game, if they can be excised from the game, or in what capacity. Yeah. I already know they've already shown like Brock Lesnar being pulled off of the like box art and the game like imagery and stuff like that, and being like replaced with John Cena, who was already on the art but now has taken up the larger Brock Lesnar space and stuff. So yeah, but obviously Lesnar has some very key WrestleMania moments, so I imagine they can't just kind of get rid of him entirely. But
yeah, I think it's more going to be promotional stuff. Like, I don't know how you did a WrestleMania mode and you're not including Vince McMahon's famous WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like his announcement of WrestleMania is one of the most iconic WrestleMania moments.
Yeah. And especially just like early up through the Attitude Era.
Yeah, he's in so many of those.
He's got to be somewhere around like the promo package videos and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, that's not like none of what has happened is 2K's fault at all. No. So it's just that they got to be scrambling to try and figure out what do or can we even do at this point.
Yeah, I think things are probably so locked in at this point. There's nothing they can do other than like some like marketing stuff.
Yeah.
Which sucks because like obviously like nobody wants to be reminded about like what an absolute fucking monster Vince McMahon is, but at the same time they're so locked in. Like, what are you going to do? Like, one of the most famous moments of all time is when Austin does his double turn. That's a WrestleMania moment. You have like, and I don't know, like you have a lot going on with that, but who's to say those were even included in the WrestleMania package?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most iconic moments in WrestleMania history is not going to happen because it has Chris Benoit in it. So
yeah, sure.
Like that alone is like the double victory of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, the cruiserweights becoming heavyweight champions. Like, we're never going to have like those moments.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. Obvious and appropriate reasons.
And very appropriate.
Yeah.
This is kind of like where the real world meets the fantasy of wrestling, and it's awkward. Yeah. It's going to be awkward. Right. At the very least, if not just kind of like infuriating and maddening at some points.
Yeah. Well, shout out to 2K24. Hope it ends up being one of the more polished slash good versions of the game, as opposed to what was it, 2K20? I think was the one that like broke them enough they had to take a year off.
Yeah. 2K. Yeah. Well, they switched internal developers at 2K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Cool. My next and final one in March is Open Roads. This is the game that has been gestating and worked on over at Fulbright for many years now. It also notoriously had a lot of like drama surrounding Steve Gaynor and Fulbright, to the point that like it is no longer, I believe, a Fulbright game, and is kind of like that team spun off and kind of created their own thing, so it wouldn't have the Fulbright baggage around it. But obviously, pretty hard to escape. But I believe it has Kerry Russell and the girl who's going to be playing Abby in the show. Caitlin Dever, I believe, are the stars of it that have been kind of like promoted since we first started seeing stuff about this game. And as a fan of, despite the turns out shitty person that Steve Gaynor kind of ended up being outed as, I'm still a fan of Gone Home. I liked Tacoma, so I'm interested to see kind of what this evolution of that kind of storytelling is for them, and the like mother-daughter open road trip kind of dynamic strikes me as like, oh, that'll be a cool one to hop into. It's one that like I probably won't be immediately eager to jump into, but it'll be like a for me, like last year what Stray Gods was, or what Oxenfree, or Goodbye Volcano High were, of like, it will be on my radar to get around to that game at some point this year. But whether or not I do it there at the end of the March, who knows? But yeah, that's on my list. Any other March games you want to chat about?
Yeah, I do have another one for it, which is Unicorn Overload, or sorry, Unicorn Overlord.
Okay.
This one is the so I'm also looking forward to Open Roads. I didn't know that was even coming out. I thought that was put on hold indefinitely after the Steve Gaynor stuff.
No. Yeah, that's it. The more recent thing is, yeah, they kind of aren't they spun away from Fulbright, because Steve Gaynor during all that stuff basically disassociated himself from the game, but he was obviously like his hands were still kind of all over it initially, and so I think a lot of the last couple of years has been kind of like turning it into their own thing that is maybe not as intimately tied to him. But yeah, it is slated for a March 28th release.
That's really good. That's so cool that they were able to do that. That they had the backing of, I'm guessing Annapurna is the publisher for it, or like the actual publisher for it. So thank goodness for Annapurna, like sticking and backing that staff as they made their own game, and made it their own. So good for them.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that game now. Yeah. I didn't realize it was coming out, so that's cool.
Troubled Gone Home Studios' next game now being made without its involvement. The developers will be credited as, quote, the Open Roads team.
Cool.
So yeah.
Good for them. Yeah, Unicorn Overlord. It's a tactics RPG coming from don't want to butcher it. So
Vanillaware?
Yeah, it's Vanillaware. I fell in love with Vanillaware stuff after
13 Aegis or 13
Odin Sphere, actually. Odin Sphere came out years ago, and I picked up the kind of like remaster that they put out on PS4, and I played the hell out of it. It's one of my favorite, definitely up there as being like a top tier game for me. I love that aspect of it as far as like the side scrolling and action that it did, and telling kind of like a reinterpretation of classic kind of like Norse and like Northern European mythology and storytelling. And it was super really cool to see that. And it was a really fun game to play. The fact that you could like just like level up by just eating a bunch of foods that looked super tasty were awesome. It was just super really cool to see such a really cool, creative, great game. Then when 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim came out, I gave that a shot and was blown away by it. It was easily one of my favorite games of that year, still one of my favorite games of all time. It is just like on a completely different level of just like game design, I guess, in a lot of ways, like bringing and like narrative design, like doing what they did with their sci-fi elements of pulling in feel like things from like Blade Runner, like there's influences of Blade Runner, a lot of Western sci-fi kind of being like infused and like reimagined in a really cool way of telling this kind of like really deep, cool sci-fi story that also had a lot of like heart to it. And yet all anybody ever talked about was like, why are those teenagers naked in those mechs? And it's so awful because it's like, I want to tell you why, but it's a massive spoiler. And it sucks. But if you can get past that, the rest of the game's absolutely fantastic on every single level. So good. I can't like recommend that game enough. So this new game, Unicorn Overlord, I almost know almost nothing about it. Super ready to jump into it. Super ready to hop into it, even though it's a tactics RPG, and those aren't necessarily my favorite. The tactics stuff in 13 Sentinels was awesome. And what really I love about Vanillaware is actually the way that they develop their characters. Characters are, each of the like focused characters have actual personality to them. They're actually their own individuals. And they have a lot of different motivations, and it's awesome to see people kind of come together and make decisions and become part of an overall, like a larger group of people, like Aegis Rim was, or if it's going to be something completely different, I'm down for that. Whatever they want to do, I'm in.
Cool. So I imagine the real answer is that you'll still be playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I do see that both Unicorn Overlord and WWE 2K24 come out on March 8th.
Yeah.
So obviously you've shouted out both those two. Which one are you jumping into first?
To be fair, I will probably not start playing these until maybe April or May.
Okay. But still, of those two, which in your precious cost analysis, and like, what are you actually going to put your money into first?
Unicorn Overlord, probably. Or I might wait till it's on sale later this year. That might also be the case.
Yeah. And like, I mean, obviously, at some point WWE is going to go on sale. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is like a lot of these games, it's like they might pop up later in the year for me.
They're coming out in March, but you'll play them in June.
Probably, actually. With how the rest of this year is kind of like looking, as far as like it's super top heavy up front.
Yeah. You can still be like catching up on, games that people were screaming about and being like, oh my God, this is amazing from last year. Now that those games are going on sale.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Yeah. That's kind of the thing.
Cool. So, any other March releases that are on your radar?
I don't believe so. Let me double check my list here.
Are you a Dragon's Dogma person?
I am not.
Yeah, me neither. I tried. Shout out to all our friends who love Dragon's Dogma. Very happy that you're getting Dragon's Dogma 2. I do not care at all about that game, and I don't pay any attention to it whenever it comes up.
I was super into the original when I was playing it, but like you saw that night when I realized that dying, I didn't have like a manual save for like 2 hours, and I had to start back again from 2 hours ago, and I'm just like, fuck this. I did so much grinding and leveling up and getting better at the game, and I'm just like, and all of that goes away. Go fuck yourself. I'm done. Like, I'm just not into that. Like, oof. Anyway, that was that thing. I'm not gonna pick up Dragon's Dogma 2. I didn't finish Dragon's Dogma 1 to begin with. It's cool. I like the ideas that they have in it. I think it's a cool series overall, but like not happening.
Fair enough. All right, so then we move on to April games. Do you have any that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I do. I have a massive one I have to give a shout out to, and that's Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes.
Yep. My list as well.
Yep, I'm a Kickstarter backer from when the game was on Kickstarter. I've been following its updates, and of course,
how long ago was that? This feels like one of those like really long time between kickstarting and the game actually finally coming out.
Oh, it has been. Yes, absolutely, it has been. Very much so. Eiyuden Chronicles, I think, was like 2018.
That's probably
no, 2019, because it was like right before Eiyuden Chronicle demo 2020.
I'm pulling up the Kickstarter page. Look at first updates. It starts at update 70, so never mind.
It was conducted through that It was in July 2020. So that's right,
Okay.
because it was during the pandemic.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, I this was one that I was like, oh yeah, I didn't back it. Largely because while I appreciate the lineage of the Suikoden games, I haven't ever really gotten into them too deep. I picked them up when they finally came to like Vita, like when you could buy the PlayStation
Mhm.
1 remaster kind of thing on Vita. And I started to play through them and was like, I'm never going to like the annoying thing about this game is it makes me want to recruit all these characters, but I'm never going to recruit all those characters. I didn't do it in Chrono Cross. I'm not going to do it here. So I never got too far into it, but the kind of mini precursor game that they released a couple years ago, Eiyuden Chronicle, whatever the other one was.
Rising. It was Rising.
Was it Rising?
Mhm.
Is that all it was? I felt like it had a bigger name.
No, Eiyuden Chronicles Rising is what it
Okay.
was.
I enjoyed that, and like that seemed to be introducing a lot of the characters that you will most likely be party members and stuff, and that was just a cool vibes. So, so yeah, it's definitely on my list as like I'm looking forward to checking that out. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. Obviously, you the backer, more hyped and more excited for this. So, anything else that like has you particularly excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited about it just because like I backed it, but also, and the game's finally coming out, but also because after playing Rising, I really fell in love with the kind of mechanics they're building for, and knowing from just kind of like pre-production as they were kind of like talking and through the updates over the years, they've been talking about different like game mechanics that they're looking and they're improving on, that they've been working on, and knowing what they did with Rising, knowing how much work and effort they've done to even improve on those. I'm just very excited to get into this game. I'm fascinated by the world. I think it's very unique in a way that it is, at least the way Rising approached it, felt very unique in the way that it was about kind of what it means for a place to remain true to its soul and its spirit, like an actual location. And what that means. Now, there's over 100 characters in the game. So everybody's going to have their own unique, like distinct personalities and things about them that that motivate them. And knowing that they've taken so long to carefully craft a lot of these characters, I'm sure some of them will be a bit, not throwaway so much as just not have it like be as fleshed out or have a lot more in-depth look to them. But I am curious to see kind of how things roll out with them. So.
Yeah. And one of the admittedly most exciting things about this one for me is it's an Xbox Day One Game Pass game. So much like my beloved Sea of Stars from last year, anybody can hop into this one day one, kind of enjoy it if they have Xbox Game Pass. So even though I didn't back this one, that's what I'm absolutely going to do is jump in and check this out on my Xbox, and it'll be a nice excuse for me to boot up Xbox this year. After yeah, like I guess I could be doing it for Persona 3 Reload right now, but since I just played Persona 3 on my Xbox a year ago, didn't really feel compelled to do that. But yeah, we got that. We got a couple other games later in the year that I'm excited for on Xbox. So yeah, shout out to Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. How many heroes do you think you're gonna recruit?
I mean, if I can do it 100,
Get all 100 of them.
yeah, that's definitely gonna be that's definitely gonna be a trophy I gotta pop.
I mean, I feel like they did a thing. Maybe I'm misremembering or something, but I feel like it's the kind of thing of like, oh, you're gonna have some choices where it's like you recruit this one or you recruit this one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's gonna be the
case. You're not gonna
case.
be able to recruit all 100
in a single playthrough. Probably not.
Yeah.
And like I'll probably mess up at some point and not be able to recruit someone.
Yeah,
like
it's very much one of those like if you want to get everybody, follow this guide specifically or something.
yeah,
like
something
that.
crazy like that. Yeah, no, and I won't be available for a long time because we're talking about 100 characters. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Also coming out that day is Tales of Kenzera Zhao. Both of these coming out.
That's also on my list.
On
so.
April 23rd.
Yep, it's gonna be a tough time.
You played the demo of this one.
I did play the demo.
Part of Steam Fest. I downloaded it and never circled back around to playing it because I've just been super down the Like a Dragon rabbit hole. But how is this one?
It's really good. I'm not gonna lie. There's some stuff about combat with some of the masks, at least the sun mask and moon mask, that I greatly prefer the moon mask stuff to the sun mask. Just as far as combat goes, maybe that's just because I'm bad at the game. We'll see. But overall, I've just been a massive fan and super impressed by it. For it, the idea of it being about grief and loss and death, and particularly that of like a father. It's not something I've had to personally go through, but the idea of like a loss of a parent is like gut wrenching to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to like the story of that, and like you're really and you like, it's easy to pick up immediately like what this game's about narrative wise, about how it's wearing its message on its nose. I think it might be better because of that, because they're not trying to make it about anything other than just like this young man's learning how to process this incredible grief. And I'm really looking forward to it. The touchstones to, I don't want to misspeak about where what African culture this is being taken from. So I won't try to postulate that, but it does take it from a particular, like it does come from very particular African culture, and it is made all the more powerful because of it. I felt deeply not connected to it, but deeply impressed by, kind of being like a fish out of water in a lot of ways, to a lot of the cultural references and a lot of things being touchstones to this, and it made me very excited to learn. And I can't wait to like hop into Zao and really get to enjoy more of that. Also, the the castle, the Metroidvania aspect of it is absolutely solid. At one point, I could freeze water, and that gave me a whole new way of like traversing around an area, because I could freeze like a waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
I could navigate through obstacles that were more difficult previously because I had to like go through a running river. And like it's so cool the way that it's done. Combat wise, like there's part of it that I like, part of it that I'm not as good at maybe, but I just don't care for right now, and didn't care for it in the demo. We'll see what happens as I unlock more things. Yeah, it's super cool. Nice. It does feel a little bare bones in a lot of ways because it's their first game. But other than that, yeah, I think it's just absolutely stellar from what I played.
Yeah, I mean, it has it's like one of the EA originals, so it's it's going to be a large indie / double A game, I imagine. So, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I like the thing that I'm always curious about, and I'm sure I could have by now dug into this and like learned a little bit more about it. But I remember the trailer at the Game Awards being like, with involvement from Critical Role, and I'm like, oh, that's a neat thing, and I'm curious.
That's a new thing, yeah.
What that's gonna, obviously that is a team full of just voice actors and whatnot. So maybe it's maybe they just kind of played into a lot of the story stuff, but yeah, I'm curious to see where they go from there, and also if they're gonna do any kind of weird little Critical Role tie-ins. They'll do a Tales of Kanzera Tau one shot or something like that.
Maybe that'd be cool.
We'll see. So yeah, shout out to both those games. Do you have any other April games that you're excited for jumping into or planning on jumping into?
Let me double check this one that I have. I don't know if it's actually April though. Yeah, it is. Sandland. So Sandland is a game being developed by Bandai Namco, and ILCA is the actual developer, but it's an action RPG based off of the kind of like a limited time work of Akira Toriyama, the guy who developed Dragon Ball, like the entire Dragon Ball series, who did the character design for Chrono Trigger. Sandland is a kind of like another Go, but for a limited time series. Akira Toriyama famously does not like working on anything long term anymore. Go figure. He wrote two of like the longest lasting like manga comic series in history. So between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, he had like the only person who goes longer than him is the guy who created JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, of like a singular like in-universe storytelling of like a group of people. He's absolutely outside of like some gag stuff. Doraemon has been around since like the 70s. Um, yeah, like like I really love Sandland. Sandland was actually a debut work for the American Shonen Jump when it came out here in the U.S. back in like the early 2000s. I know because it was weirdly like the place that I bought mine from was the Blockbuster Video, which tells you like the time that we're in with this.
Sure.
But yeah, I used to go to my local library and like for their like monthly Shonen Jump that they were putting out in the U.S. And you get a couple chapters of something, and Sandland was like one of the first ones. And Sandland is awesome. It's about a post-apocalyptic world, kind of like
It's got a Mad Max vibe
little
based on the image I'm looking at. Yeah.
very Mad Max vibes in that it's about like everywhere is a desert. It's all about like water
It's
resources.
Sandland.
Yeah, the demon race is like a race of like mutants and anthropomorphic animal creatures. You play the son of the Demon King, and you are joined by tank operators to try to find the mythic Sandland, which has like an abundance of water. And it's a story about like resource hoarding and it's very and I'll be honest, it's very anti-capitalist. It's very anti-capitalist, very anti-billionaire, very anti like very much more about like proletariat sharing of communal resources type of a style. Overall, I'm very excited for it. It looks really good, but most importantly, I think it will stay true to the story and the kind of message of Sandland. And if it does that, then I think it's going to be an absolute smash hit. I think it might be a sleeper for a lot of folks.
Cool. Great. That it for your April games?
Yeah, I believe that's it for April. This one comes out April 26th, so I don't think I have anything after that. Sorry, maybe one more thing. Let me double check the date on this real quick. Yep, this one also comes out April 26th. Why is this year doing this to me?
Is it Stellar Blade?
It's Stellar Blade. Why is it doing this to me?
I wondered if this was going to be on your list.
Why is this year giving me multiple games coming out on the same date and I want to play all of them? What the fuck?
Because game development, they just keep coming.
They just keep coming and they don't stop coming.
Yeah. Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Yep. Both of us kind of blanking on the next lyric and just giving up. I love it. Fun. Your brain gets smart and your head gets dumb. Yes. Stellar Blade. Yeah. Also April 26th there. This is one, like, every time I see it, I completely forget what the game's about, and then I see it, I'm like, oh, that definitely doesn't look like a me game.
No, it's like a Bayonetta action style game. Yeah. I'm super stoked for it because obviously it looks rad as hell. Yeah, it's an action RPG. It's like I'm super into what it could be. We'll see. I probably will I'm not going to be dropping like 60, $70 on this game from the outset. I'm definitely going to wait for like reviews and hearing from other people who I know are like people who I trust in this space. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. It is one of those. Obviously, PlayStation just came out and was like, yeah, we don't have any like first party games slated to come out this year, really. But this is one much like, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that they've kind of locked down and are really kind of putting their marketing efforts behind as a second party title this year, and kind of one of the big ones they're really trying to like get people behind, given its prominent placement in state of plays and PlayStation showcases and stuff like that. So yeah, hope it ends up paying off for the people that are into that kind of game, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything for me. All right, then we get into May, and this is also where like we start getting very few actual dates beyond this point. And the last one that I actually have that has a date is in May. Senua Saga Hellblade 2, now dated for May 21st, following the recent Xbox Direct developer Direct showcase. Obviously, the first Hellblade was, I think, something really special. And in particular, one of the best games I've ever played with headphones on, because of how they use like the spatial audio and just incorporate that into these are the voices in Senua's head that you're the player hearing, and they're going to tell you to move because something's coming from behind you or something like that. I thought that was such a creative use of those kinds of features and mechanics and stuff like that. And the psychological story and whatnot of the first game was really strong. I think both of us not huge fans of the ending of the game. In particular, it's one of those like I didn't realize it was one of those games where like, hey, you're going to keep fighting until you stop fighting, because I just kept killing things and I was like, what, this feels like this is going on forever and just being incredibly repetitive at this point. And then it was the realization that no, I was supposed to let the like enemies overwhelm me at some point. But I was like, it took me like 30 minutes of just like killing everything to just be like what am I, there's nothing happening, what's going on here. I probably like tried to Google it while I was playing it and had to like learn that was the case. So that aside, and sadly, like that's the last like impression and last memory I have on the game. But
and it has a really bad ending cutscene that makes no goddamn sense.
I won't agree with you on that.
That's fair. I didn't get it, and I was very unhappy at that moment though because of that ending. I'm like I don't understand what the fuck is going on, and I don't care for this. And I'm angry because I've been trying to survive for the last like hour, and I'm angry about it.
But obviously this game, this was in development before they were acquired by Xbox. So it's been in development for many, many years at this point, because this was one of like the first big pickups that Xbox had. I'm excited that Xbox has given them the time to like flesh this game out and turn it into what it believes the studio can kind of have behind it. So I'm eager to hop into it. It's another one of the reasons I'm excited to be able to boot up my Xbox later this year. I know the first game, speaking for Logan, that like the first game was his favorite game of the year when it came out, 2017 it would have been, I guess. I know he's very stoked to like for this one to come back, and because he's not an Xbox person, I'm curious how far he's going to go to, you know, try and play this. Is he going to pick up an Xbox Series X? Is he going to borrow friends or something like that? But I'm very excited for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Anything to add?
I'm super excited for it. I mean, I popped when it was announced. I'm still super excited for it to this day. Every little bit more we get about it, I'm just more and more excited. I just really want to get my hands on it and play it.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have any more dated games? I know there's, I would say, one big one in June that seems like it might get you, but I don't know. I would say that being Destiny 2, The Final Shape.
No.
If that's going to maybe pull you back into Destiny, but
I don't think so. I have no idea what's going on in Destiny's narrative anymore, and honestly, it feels like they keep going back to the well of the hive and just not getting anything out of it at this point. It felt weird that they're like, yeah, the darkness person has finally come. Now go to this VR world to like do that. And it's like, I'm so confused about what the hell the point of this game is anymore.
Yeah.
And now, especially now after all the Bungie layoffs, like I feel so bad for the people who are still there, who had to deal with like the difficulty that was those mass layoffs. Many from like the narrative team and like the narrative leads. And it's like, this does not bode well for like what is the problems at Destiny. Like it just, I don't know. I if you had told me that at the end of like after playing through Destiny 1 and being like this is like my forever game, the struggles that I've had after like continuing past the point of like where you gave up, and continuing to play to the point where it's just like I just don't have it in me anymore. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm coming back to play it is because I have this awesome group of friends that are playing it, but now it's getting to the point where I'm so underpowered and I am just like, I don't have the cool new weapons. And so I feel like I'm contributing so little to this game now and it's not sustainable for me to continue playing it. And
it has always been the weirdest business model for me of like, they've always leaned so heavily into like their core fan base, seemingly at the expense of ever bringing in new players. Like, I don't know how as a new player you come into this game and like manage to do anything at all, because like the game doesn't, I mean, I imagine it doesn't like tutorialize anything anymore, since literally the original game was the tutorial for the end game stuff, and that's now gone from the game, all the Red Centurion campaign stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
just like, I don't know how people hop in that game and are expected to understand the myriad of currencies and all these different side quests and factions and different things you can help out with and do. And I just, yeah, none of it seems to matter to me anymore. But yeah, shout out for the people that, you know, are still in there. This seems to be the final chapter of whatever they're doing. Obviously, they you know, the big thing is they've touted they're bringing Nathan Fillion and Cade Six back, or Cade back. You know, Cade 7 would be my guess in terms of like who that character is.
It, as somebody who played through some of the stuff where you find out a lot more about it, it's probably still Cade 6.
I mean, I remember like going through the Cade stuff and being like, oh, this was the 6th iteration of Cade.
Yes.
So I don't know why it wouldn't be Cade 7.
Because the process at which the Exos are like given another life on top of their previous one, there's things have changed in the Destiny lore through like recent expansions.
Cool.
The last expansion I played through goes heavy into Exo stuff and like kind of explains it. So the way that they're kind of showing him coming back.
And by that you mean, oh, you find stuff in Ghosts. It's as bad as like Bloodborne for me, or an Elden Ring, in terms of like, oh, you're gonna get the lore from like item descriptions, or
no, for this one it was more through like it was
or something.
It was based off of like the final raid, like the raid for that expansion.
Oh, okay.
The Tomb of Stone or something like that. That is where a lot of the Exo stuff kind of gets like told to you by like in through quest lines, like through like the weekly updates and stuff for the season stuff. Like there's a lot that they explain actually to you now. In that game, they're not doing the cryptic things anymore with the codex or whatnot. Like a lot of it is just like outright told to you.
Okay. Well, that's a step in the right direction, I guess.
Yep. It is there's a lot of that. The problem is that there's just like there's like the grind is just unsustainable unless you want to like commit to it hardcore.
Yeah.
And that's really rough. Like I wish they took kind of Final Fantasy 14's attitude about it, which is when we have things for you to play, come play. And like we have a lot that you can play all the time, but if you only want to stick to main story stuff, cool, bounce off, go play other games. Yoshida is famous for being like, I want people to feel like they can put Final Fantasy 14 down and go play another game.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of other games, I imagine we're both into our like the TBA, to be announced kind of section, where none of these have particular dates, so we're just kind of go through things chronologically. So I imagine I'll kick things off because it's probably going to be the first game on the list here. But 33 Immortals is one that I am excited for, notably because it is from the team behind Spiritfarer, but in a wildly different game than Spiritfarer was. I very much obviously love Spiritfarer. We've talked about it at length. One of my favorite things I've ever written is Spiritfarer related on the website, so you can go check that out.
Yeah, I'm surprised you said this. Okay.
33 Immortals is, I mean, like, I have little interest in doing like the co-opness of this one. But the Hades-ness of it has me, intrigued, and because of my love of Spiritfarer, I want to give that team kind of a shot, even if it's not going to ultimately be my kind of game. Because this is basically the one where it is like, oh, it's kind of a Hades like, but with 33 people at any given time, kind of in a co-op world, playing through and working through that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
you are playing a damned soul escaping God's judgment. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty stoked for it, based off of just Thunder Lotus. I felt in their, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was their first game.
Was it one of the? Oh shoot! Yeah, I remember. I don't remember what games they've done, but
Sundered. That's it.
Sundered.
I did not play Jotun, but Sundered was awesome as hell. and I enjoyed the story in there, and it was just a kick-ass Metroidvania. Awesome game. Killer bosses. Like, bosses were insane in that game. Yeah, so like that game is awesome. I did not play Spiritfarer because I played the demo and it almost broke me at a PAX, and that was before like I lost my foster mom. And after, like, I have not had the courage. Like, there were 2 games I played at that PAX, and I have not had the courage to go back and play either of them. The other one's Welcome to Elk. Still haven't played that one, even though I own it. It's on my desktop. It's installed.
There you go.
I don't have the courage to play it.
I think, like, yeah, Spiritfarer may still have a significant emotional resonance, but for me, it was a catharsis, and it was a joyous emotional catharsis that I had with that game. And I will always evangelize that game. Like, that is a beautiful game. It's one, it, like, I think about it often, and it's not like, it's never, I don't think about it in the conversation of like my favorite games ever, because there are some like stacked big names on that list, but it is like probably one of my favorite like unsung hero games, for specifically, like, I went back and replayed it a year or so ago, and just it still holds up. It's still, I mean, it's a beautiful game just in general. But yeah, I think it was, when it came to PlayStation, I think I basically rebooted it up and played through it for the platinum and all that stuff. So yeah, Spiritfarer, real special. So I'm at least interested to check out 33 Immortals when it comes, even though, like roguelike, not typically my thing, but if it can hit, it can hit very well. So I want to give them a shot and give them some support. I do have an A game. Do you have anything else in the A range?
I have Avowed.
Avowed, yeah, that's the one on my list as well.
Yep. It's Obsidian. I'm super stoked to see what they've been working on, what they've been cooking. They usually don't miss. So yeah, I'm stoked to see what they do.
Yeah, we got a deep look at it from the developer direct, and it seems to be like, I imagine it will have a lot of their charm and humor. It like, I think at a first glance it can look like an Obsidian Skyrim, but I don't. I mean, they'll come out and say like it's not. We're not trying to be that. We're not trying to be Skyrim. But because it's more in the fantasy setting, it's like that's the immediate comparison you're going to get. Much like Outer Worlds was their Fallout-y kind of game, or Starfield effectively. But yeah, I've been curious to see what that team's been working on since it originally was shown off, and yeah, I mean it's another one. The fact that it's going to be on Game Pass means there's like, I'm already bought in, because I never remember to cancel my Game Pass subscription. So
I don't know why you ever would. It's the perfect service. It's great.
I mean, if you want that $20 a month back or whatever it is now.
Oh yeah, that's right. You do like the ultimate version because you also own an Xbox. That makes sense. I pay the like $9 a month or $10 a month.
Gotcha. So yeah, there's but yeah, Avowed, excited for coming out this fall. And right now it is, a big fun fall release that I'm looking forward to. We'll see what else hits later this year in terms of that. But I think especially after like the just behemoth rush of games that we got last year, that very much was like, these are a lot of games that like were pandemic games that like now are finally ready to come out. I don't know how much more of that was being held back. So I feel like this might be a quieter year just in general. I mean, especially based on like what this list that we're going through. The biggest heavy hitter for me this year is Rebirth, and that's out in a week and a half. So I don't know. Maybe the back half of my year is just gonna be like, all right, time to go back to Baldur's Gate 3 again. They released patch 6 recently that has more new legendary actions and stuff in honor mode runs. So I'm like, well, I want to go see what those are, and I want to see how they've changed up more combat things. So, but yeah, so that's Avowed. What's next on your list?
Next on my list is Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail.
I have it on mine. I don't know. It's one of those like, I don't know if it'll get me to come back after Endwalker and the 400 hours I put into Final Fantasy VII back then. But it's, if anything's going to get me back to Final Fantasy 14, it'll be Dawn Trail. You've obviously been keeping more up with things and all the patch quests and stuff like that as everything's been going out. So what about Dawn Trail has you super excited?
Initially, I was like, I don't know how I feel about the new world premise and everything, but after playing through the story content leading up to this point, I'm super stoked. I'm now at the point where I've done everything you need to do before you can start the expansion this summer. I'm very excited for it, based off of just like the quest introduction to the main quest of Dawn Trail. It's very much it's not the whole band getting back together. There's a lot of interesting and curious things going on as far that is tied into like kind of the history of people that you're not familiar with, you're not part of. Part of that is this whole new continent, this whole new area, but it also is like there's like the Scions, some of the Scions had a life before you get introduced to them. And before they even became the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Like there's Thancred and I said Ultred or Ulthred, but Urianger are not part of your main party, but they are going to be in the new world for their own reasons. And there's a lot of like different intricate things about like why people are going there. You are basically being asked to be part of a champion squad to help somebody secure the throne of this new world. And unlike, some of the other nations like in Eorzea, this is a multicultural, multinational, confederation under a single like ruler. And that ruler is like the people who are coming up for the throne aren't even like biologically related. They're all different like groups of people from different tribes. The person you're going with is, for the first time, we get a female Hrothgar, and she's awesome as hell. She's like a warrior slash she's a marauder slash warrior. She uses a big axe, swings it around. She's really cool. And there's kind of like some family drama with this royal family. Go figure. And it's like they kind of do like reveal of like, hey, why are you becoming why do you want to become the ruler? And she's like, well, I want to become the ruler, but like more than that, like I'd be okay with just about all of my siblings becoming the ruler. This is really more about like making sure the best person gets the throne. And I'm like, I really dig like the vibe of this. I dig kind of like the whole feel of it. And what they're doing, and I'm kind of into the Scions being kind of pitted against each other and backing different claimants, and just it's really all about the adventure of a new world in this one, and it's not the idea of like there's an existing place over here and existing people. It's just really far to get there, and so there's not a lot of people who go there, and like there's a lot to explore over there. So it's this new world that is opening up, and it's the Americas and the Eorzea, or I'm trying to remember. Aetheris is the name of the planet. The Aetheris, the whole New World continent is North and South America, and it's got so much inspiration from so many different I won't say originals, but the native peoples' cultures are being pulled into it. You have Aztec. You have like just hearing about like the Confederation of Nations all uniting under single leadership reminds me a lot of the Mohawk nations in New England. Like there's a lot going on with this that is just very exciting. I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited for the new class Viper, which is kind of like a Zidane. Swallow swords, like dual wielding, but also like dual wielding short swords, but also being able to put them together to make like a double blade. And it's just rad as hell. And I'm very, very curious about like that quest line for that. I was really impressed with the quests for the new classes. Every time the quest lines seem to be really, really good. I'm really curious to see what comes forward from this, and I can't wait to hop into it. So I'm stoked as hell.
Yeah, some of the stuff that does have me excited is that it seems to be teasing or leaning into like Final Fantasy IX, much like Endwalker was heavily Final Fantasy IV focused and stuff like that. And so yeah, seeing like a lot of the Final Fantasy IX stuff, which is behind behind like 6 and 4. It's my favorite of like the PlayStation 1 era was Final Fantasy 9. So yeah, seeing what they do with that is certainly interesting and potentially
What, the
compelling.
one where the main character is a theater kid is the one that you're a
Right?
big fan
Exactly.
of?
Exactly. What is it? Oh, to be a canary or something, whatever
Yeah.
the canary play is.
Oh, My Canary or something like that.
Yeah. So that's certainly like an enticing element to potentially bring me back in. And yeah, just are they? Do you know? Because obviously, like one of the big
They
things
have not made big
about
changes to the Black Mage class. You can come in and pick
no,
up.
no,
and it'll be
no.
fine.
One of the big things was like that has been happening since I walked away is that they've been adding the like
The trust system.
the trust system to all of the older parts of the game. Is that I imagine that's going to be in kind of day and date with the beginning, so like I won't need to rely on apart from probably the 8-person things.
That is
right?
accurate.
That's the only stuff I would need. And I will say, like, I definitely had mixed luck in some of the dungeons with the trust system compared to playing with other people. But
To answer your question, yes,
Yeah,
it
the
is
trust
there. Not
system
only
still-
that, but if you ever wanted to level up another character or play, like, for anybody who's like, I really like the trust system, but when does it end? After this expansion, it will not end. They are implementing the Stormblood expansion trust system into it, and so everything will be trust system based. They already rolled it out for the Realm Reborn campaign, so everything you start from the beginning, your first group required stuff, can now be done with trust.
yeah.
And it's actually kind of fun as like a lore nerd of Final Fantasy 14. It's fun to see the kind of like groups, because sometimes it's like your grand company, or it's like the different groups from the grand company.
I mean, I want to go back to Stormblood stuff and play with Lise. She was my bae.
She was your bae. There you go.
Um,
Why you pick Lise with... Never mind, it's fine. We don't have to get into waifu wars over Final Fantasy 14.
Ishtola is great too. but-
Ishtola is the eternal bae. Ishtola is like 100% like the best girl of Final Fantasy 14.
I'm a sucker
Bar
for a red dress, I guess.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah. Well, shout out to Dawn Trail. I know I will obviously hear about it and how good it is from you, and that'll be a case of like, okay, do I hop back in and like re-up my subscription and stuff like that to come back to the game?
I have never stopped my subscription.
I know you haven't, but you also have a house now, and you can like you stick with it to keep your house and to continue to enjoy that.
That and like I've now because Vipers uses the same equipment set as the end game equipment sets as the Rogue/Ninja.
Mhm.
I've now been going through and I play through all the Rogue stuff, and now I'm in the middle of the Ninja stuff, and I'm leveling up that. It's the same thing I did with Dragoon going into Reaper for Endwalker.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's just like there's still like I still have all these classes that I can level up and do and like play through their stories.
Yeah.
I had an amazing time for no reason other than I just wanted to do it, doing the Summoner and Scholar, which are technically part of like the same, like your level for both of them will always match. But having one that's dedicated towards like the mystery of like the third mage nation that had these weird scholars and stratagems who were able to be like equals to white mages and black mages. Like that's a whole fascinating thing as you discover more about that that civilization and that society, and like the relation to tonberries. Like that's awesome stuff. And not only that, but then on the flip side, there's the summoning part of it where you're basically developing an elegant art to summon up versions of primals, and it's awesome as hell. There's awesome shit in that game. It's just I've like you every time I think, man, I think I've done a lot of it. It's just like, no, you barely scratched the surface on this game. Every time I feel that way, and it's great.
Mm-hmm. You finally went and did the all the jokey stuff with what's his butt, right?
Unfortunately, there's more.
Of course, there's more. There's
and I
always
have
more.
to go through more to get my next Manderville weapon.
Manderville. There you go.
The fact that they tied the Manderville stuff to like the Hildebrand stuff to like the legacy, like the weapon sets for this time, the upgradable weapon sets.
Mm-hmm.
is just the bane of my existence. I hate Hildebrand so much.
That's fascinating to me because so much of it screams your kind of stupid humor.
We have been over this before. It's because it's too close to home.
It's too on the nose.
It's too on the nose. It's too close to home.
It is too much of a mirror reflecting back at you that you say, "Oh, this is what I'm like."
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm fully aware. I'm fully aware of it, and I don't care for it. I get like anybody who's like, "Yeah, I just don't really care for Cameron." I completely understand. Listen, I get it. I'm not easy to be around. It's okay.
Cameron's the Hildebrand of our friend groups.
That is 100% the case. It's always been the case. Except like my dad doesn't run around naked, buff as hell. Like my dad is not my father. But other than that, like but also like I don't have a lot of like the like other things I don't care about Hildebrand are like not the dopey shit, but just kind of like the absurd fetch questiness of it. And the fact that like, but the good news is that you can skip all those cutscenes.
Sure.
I have no idea what's going on in Hildebrand's story because I skip every single cutscene.
There you go. All right. Well, what do you have next after Final Fantasy VII Dawn Trail?
14 Dawn Trail. I have Frostpunk 2.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Frostpunk. I remember hearing good things about the first Frostpunk.
The first Frostpunk is incredible. It's an incredible game. It's a resource management city builder. Mm-hmm. It is awesome as hell. It's like basically Victorian era England. Like the world is like basically like Ice Age is coming. You will have to like you have a core thing that you're blasting heat out of to keep an area from being like, you know, keeping people alive and warm. And it's up to you to keep these survivors alive. And you send out expeditions to go to different landmarks and sites. And it's all about resource management, resource gathering, and developing and like surviving these brutal storms. And like the kind of like conflict that comes into it. Like, are you going to be compassionate? Are you going like you can easily go down like the avenue of religious authoritarianism? You can go into like the avenue of like there's whole things about like what about the dignity of human beings and what it means in this case. It's direct, like I would say like moral parallels to the age of the industrialization of England and kind of like the cost of measures for that. Like, are you going to let kids go to work and like force them into like jobs because you're low on people? Or are you going to have the policy that you're not going to make kids work? You're going to get kids put in school. There's also like a middle ground of like getting kids, older children into like less like non-dangerous jobs, like working in the kitchens or working in like the hothouse for growing plants, stuff like that. Or they can then get old enough where they can help out and learn trades of like surgeon or engineer or something like that. So they eventually age up to the point where then they become surgeons and whatnot. So it's cool stuff. Awesome game. I'm so excited because I loved all the scenarios in Frostpunk 1 that they could give you. You have like story scenarios that you could go into, and I'm really excited to see what they do with Frostpunk 2 with the new engine and everything. I'm super stoked.
Very cool.
One of my favorite ones of all time was a scenario called the Arc, where basically you are storing things into a long-term arcs because eventually you get to a point where there's just going to be like this forever storm. And so people had to get into these arcs to survive. And you had to like shore up everything, get prepared for it, and get as many people in there as you could. And then like that was the end of the scenario. And then there's basically you can do like unending, like basically like an outside campaign mode, just a free mode. And those are awesome too.
Nice. So you talking about that reminded me that I at least will want to give a shot to our History Untold or Era. I don't know how it seems like, I guess Era probably makes more sense. But this is the Civilization-like that was in the recent Developer Direct, also coming out this fall. And just, I mean, if for no other reason, then it will be on Game Pass, and I can just kind of check it out. No harm, no foul. But like Civilization 6, it's been a few years. Maybe there's a Civilization 7 somewhere slated that I'm not really keeping too close an eye on or anything like that. But, you know, I might be jonesing for that Civ fix. And it seems like they definitely, it seems like a team of people who have worked on Civ type games before and being like, here are new ideas that we want to throw into the fold and see, how this all plays out and stuff like that. So
I'm really curious because I feel like that space is really bogged up, whether it's by Anno, whether it's by Civ, whether it's by there's a lot of different areas where how do you carve your niche into this very admittedly not very reasonably popular, but not too popular of a genre.
Sure. It is the it is the niche PC kind of game. And it's a game that I feel plays best on PC. I very much appreciate that some of the more recent ones I've been able to play on console, but they have to drastically change around the UI and stuff like that to really work on a controller. So now that I'm because I'm in here in this room enough and more open to playing on PC, I'm at least more willing to hop in and be on PC Game Pass so I can check it out there. So yeah, shout out to that one just as a belated nod. But the next one that I had on my list is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, also slated to come out this fall. I believe this fall, 2024. It looked great from the developer showcase. I'm always happy to have machine games give me a game where I can punch and shoot Nazis.
Absolutely.
That's a catharsis we need any year, let alone, 2024, another election year.
Yep, that'd be great.
And yeah, the setting it between, because they said it's set between Temple of Doom and the Ark, right? I think it's set between the first two Indiana Jones movies.
Yes.
So we're getting Troy Baker doing his best Harrison Ford impression, but we're gonna get that era of Indy. Just leaves me excited for the potential, and I'm interested as dumb a thing as the Great Circle is as the MacGuffin. I'm still interested to see where they go with it and what they do with it. I'm glad Todd Howard is not game directing this one and is just kind of on as writer and executive producer, because after Starfield I don't really want another Todd Howard game because I think he's just living too much in the past. But hopefully the machine gamesness of this will win out overall and make for a very good time. So
I hope so.
Definitely on mine.
That's definitely on my list as well. Yeah. So yeah, very excited for that game.
Yep. Anything to add?
To Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? No.
Yep. All right. Then what's next on your list after that?
Next up on my list is
I only have one more game.
I have a couple more.
Cool.
Greedfall 2.
Okay.
I was I was interested and had a fun time with Greedfall. Eventually I kind of fell off of it, but I did find out through watching Let's Plays and stuff from other people about kind of how it goes story-wise. And so I'm kind of curious to see what they do with Greedfall 2. It could be good. So Greedfall 1 I felt had a lot of potential, but I don't know if it necessarily reached it. Then after that, I have Hades 2, just more Hades, please and thank you.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if Hades 2 comes out this year, absolutely it'll be on my list. I have not seen it dated for 2024 anywhere, so
it was on a TBA for me, and so that's why I'm not putting time onto it. That's it. Hades 2 would be great.
Absolutely. The last one on my list that I'll just kind of shout out and we kind of go back and play cleanup with you. Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door, the remaster that we're getting with that. That's one of, if not my favorite Paper Mario game. Getting to play Super Mario RPG kind of remastered last year was a ton of fun. Can't wait to see what they do with Thousand Year Door here. Shout out to our friend Ari, because certainly they are one of the biggest champions of the game I know. Whereas I've always been more quiet. It's easily the best GameCube game. That's the thing I say about it is as somebody who's never been like super diehard into Smash. Like it's a no brainer for me that it's the best GameCube game, and I look forward to more people getting a chance to hop in and play that one this year, especially on something like the Switch that has such a mammoth adoption rate compared to
Yeah.
the poor potential install base that the previous game had. Yeah, that's just a phenomenal game, and I can't wait to see. Like it's one of those, I'm not expecting it to like look leaps and bounds like crazy better or anything like that, because the first game's art style still holds up today. But I imagine it'll be a little cleaner, a little crisper, and I'll be interested to see what little bells and whistles they throw in there, similar to how they did the Super Mario RPG one. So yeah, what else do you have on your list here, Cam?
Next on my list is the last one on my list, and that is Zenless Zone Zero.
Okay.
I'm super stoked for it. It's from the Hoyoverse folks. I kind of always thought maybe I might get into Honkai Star Rail, but honestly just didn't really pick it up, didn't find myself interested or pulled into it. Zenless Zone Zero is 100% my, looking like my cup of tea. It is a action RPG, and looks like it's sizing up to be really, really good from all the video, like all the stuff they put out for it, marketing wise, but also just in general, just character design and everything else. I'm super stoked for it.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's a game I want to at least give a tip of the hat to, because it's one I'm not blindly excited for, but if it comes out and reviews very well, Metaphor Refantasio.
Is that coming out this year?
It's slated.
Oh shoot! Then yeah, no, I'm stoked for that game. Then it was not on the list of what I saw from either list.
Gotcha.
So that kind of frustrates me a little bit. But other than that, that I didn't know that it was slated for this year. I'm super stoked for it. I think it looks awesome as hell.
Yeah, I think it was on. It was in the recent PlayStation.
Yes, and I'm remembering it's in Barrett's. It's in his fantasy list. Barrett Courtney over at Kind of Funny.
Yep. Obviously the team behind the last couple of Persona games is kind of split off, and they're making this instead of a next Persona thing. So, but everything it looks like when they show it off is like, oh, that looks like Persona. That looks like the style and stuff of Persona. So for me, it really is going to come down to like, do I really want to have to learn a whole new set of like the monster types and stuff like that? At least when I go back to a Persona game, even if I don't remember all of the, especially when you get into like deep, level 60, 70, 80 kind of personas, I still remember like the Pixies and the Blue Frost and those kinds of things.
Jack Frost, yeah.
Jack Frost, yeah. They are familiar enough to me. So I don't know if I really want to like have to learn a whole new batch of Fantasios or whatever they're called in this. But yeah, it's if it ends up reviewing very well and I'm looking for something to do, it's definitely something that I can easily see making its way into my my lineup, especially if Xbox continues to invest in these kinds of games, because I don't remember if it's supposed to be a Game Pass day and date game, but I feel like I've seen it at least floated in that conversation.
I wouldn't be surprised considering Persona 3 Reload was.
Yeah. So yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. Where are you at on the if it comes out, the Metal Gear Solid Delta?
I'll play it. Okay. I'm down to play it. We'll see. I have a lot of concerns for it. I would love for it to be like just a solid remake of like not really varying from Kojima's initial like design for that game as far as it's like everything about it. If they just want to like bring it into the modern systems, that'd be great, but I don't anticipate it will. I don't think Konami would like put out that. They just would put it out as a remaster, even if it was like a more high, like not just an HD remaster, but like an actual like, kind of like a true remaster where they, remaster all the assets and put them back into place and then just have the game go. I don't anticipate that would be the case. So we'll see what happens.
And then maybe my last question for you, unless I land on another idea. When do you think Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC is going to drop?
Dude, I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. It could be 3 years from now. I don't know.
Okay.
I know they're working on it. That's what they say. They keep on saying they're working on it. I don't know. This is the longest one of their games has gone without any DLC. So, because it's been like more than a year.
Yeah.
So, it's almost been 2 years. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I couldn't tell you.
All right. Undoubtedly, when it does come out, it will shoot up to your most anticipated. And I imagine you will drop everything to jump into that.
Absolutely. You better believe it.
Yeah. Well, have fun. I've uninstalled Elden Ring. I'm never going back. That game is dead to me.
That's fair.
Fuck you, Flame Giant. All right. Well, unless we have anything else, there are definitely a couple others that I like looking through the list. I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting. I don't think it's going to come out in 2024, and I'm talking like Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, that was one.
And a couple other like the Plucky Squire. If it comes out, cool. I'm excited to check it out and hop into it. But nothing about it is like convincing me that it's a real 2024 kind of game. Yeah. So, but yeah, shout outs to the year ahead in games, and I look forward to the ones that aren't on these lists that end up coming out and surprising me this year, because sometimes those are the most fun. Those surprises that catch us off guard and end up wowing us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ask me this time last year, Baldur's Gate 3 would not have made this cut. And it ends up being my favorite game of all time. So,
yep.
Who knows? Maybe I'll get another new favorite game here in 2024.
You never know. You never know.
I mean, on that vein, like if Larian does any sort of like DLC or anything with Baldur's Gate 3, that immediately that'll be my Shadow of the Erd Tree, and be like, all right, I'm dropping everything to jump in and see.
I mean, they've just been. They've said they're not working on any DLC, and they literally just put out like a massive like 3 gig patch. So.
Yeah, but the epilogue very much teases potential other stories that they can do. In particular, there's like a tease of going into Avernus, going and getting blueprints for a infernal engine that can heal Karlach, and will let her live in the real world and stuff like that. So if they give me something like that, I will immediately be like, yes, I need to go help Karlach. Karlach is the best. So shout out to that, and shout out to Baldur's Gate 3 winning at the DICE Awards. Yay! Shout out to Spider-Man 2 winning a bunch of stuff at the DICE Awards too. It was a good award show. All right, well, I think that'll do it for this episode then. Thank you, Cam, for sitting down and doing our kind of annual run through of the 2024 what's coming out this year kind of lists. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Heads up, there's a Hellskate Let's Play coming your way. I have to edit it and get that scheduled out, but yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Let's Play coming from me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Cameron sat down and recorded something earlier today. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. In addition to Cameron's Hellskate Let's Play, you can see my continuing series on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth as I continue to play through that game. By the time this episode goes up, my belated favorite actual plays of 2023 list should be up on the site as well. So you can go check that out if you're into actual play stuff. And shout out to that D Plus show on Echo, the first episode of Echo that Cameron and I finally sat down and watched last week. We should be I sat down and watched the rest of Echo this weekend, so we should be on for doing kind of the full season of Echo on this week's That D Plus show. So stay tuned for that as well. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. As always, thank you for listening. Stay nerdy and be good to each other.